the Bleacher Reacher Pro. It is the weapon of choice for most professional mascots across our fine continent. You've seen them shoot their T-shirts into the rafters. Those T-shirts are usually covered with some logo of some sporting team, with it magenta as one would expect. Thank you, my friend. Inside this T-shirt is not just a funky T-shirt, not just an awesome logo commemorating the event, but inside here is a coupon wrapped inside of here for a Magento U. Some of these coupons for courses that are pretty spendy. There's a few in here for a $3,800 course. How great are you when you come back from Vegas, having convinced your boss to be here in the first place, and say, not only did I learn how to do, but I have to pay for it, and you need to send me to it. So that's inside. We should launch these out for a little bit of style. We should probably bring the ladies just in case somebody gets shot in the head. Or you want to shut up. Just the hands up. $3,800 Magento course. So if anybody gets hurt, I don't work for Magento. All right, that was pathetic. I don't think it
just throw it.
I could just throw it. This is just okay. Speaking of transformation, one of the favorite characters in any movie I've ever seen is Transformation 21. Remember that guy? Okay, I am Jules. That's a little bit better. A little tricky to see. Let's do a couple more. Yeah, I've got to mix it up. It's going to come in a little hot. Where it's going to be released. Very self.
It's a.
Alright, one more. We'll do more of these a little bit later. Sorry, I'm waiting.
Hey.
There it goes.
Anybody get hurt?
It's great.
Last year, we were here at the conference. We spent some time celebrating some of Magento's customers.
Remember, somebody else has to tweet now.
Remember the fashion show? It's a highlight of the conference. And I'm sure it was for the and this year, on this day, so celebrate some customers. Tell you that celebrated last time. But what we want to do this morning is, there we go. I posed as a photographer last year. I had to go backstage for some B-roll.
Sure, just left.
I want to tell you a little story about the great feeling from my family. My family has a little children and my wife. Put the pressure on it. And how does the dad not do that? Luke is a mix of a French bulldog and a type. She's a moron. Wonderful creature. Here's what you join. Roll with one paw. She eats everything and she's everything and she's very and she's running around the house. The problem with this animal out is if you're not paying attention, you may get a pinch on your never my children, even though we had a problem with this, since we got spent, we designed it, so we decided to rescue the dog, and then came along Keisha. Mutt, she's a very scared little creature. She was one of a few siblings who survived. The other was left in a box and up beside a dumpster and froze. But sad, terrible story. But Keisha survived, and our family adopted her. Now, while Luca has problems throwing up the food, Keisha has digestive issues, GI problems. We're getting into some details here. It's a bit freaky early in the morning, but it's going to come to a really important point. And so while Luca is throwing up in our home, Keisha is crapping all over it. And I'm pulling my hair out trying to figure out what kind of food can we come up with that is going to solve this problem. And then enter, wonderfully for me in my research for all of this, Purina. This is like a comedian would say, a true story. This is the true story. So Just Right by Purina offers this idea, powered by Magento, that you can customize the food for your dog. And I clearly need some dog customization. When I went through the site, I thought, oh, it's going to be by and large. I was skeptical. It was just going to be sort of marketing, superficial marketing. Tell us about your dog. And then we're just going to send you the same formula based on a couple of simple questions. Not the case. It was more involved than I thought, and it actually would yield a very specific kind of food for Luca. So we talked about what breed she is. We talked about if she was a female, how much she weighed. We went through this process, these questions, and she's active, she's highly active, not so much. You can see the toggle there moving on. Very easy, just to put your mouse on there, off it goes. I figured she was a little chunky, kind of like the owner, a little on the thick side, maybe an extra 7 or 8 pounds around the midsection. All sorts of great questions. What does she eat? She eats it quickly. You can get a sense of how detailed the question went. It goes on and on and on. This particular question bothered me. I would describe poop scooping for Luca as a miserable job my children promised to do, but after 2 months of ownership, no longer do it anymore. So I had to walk around the yard squeezing her poop to get a sense of what kind of density it is. Stupid animal. Then asking me about what kind of food, I said solid, unlike Keisha. Then goes on to ask me, well, does Luca like chicken, lamb, or salmon? I don't know, it's a dog. What the hell am I going to know that? But I guess I should have known that there were preferences, and Barb, my wife, would say, oh no, she likes this, and so we inputted that information, and on and on and on and on it goes. And long story short, Luca's blend is delivered to our house. And you do the same for Keisha, and you have Keisha's blend, just to make sure there's no confusing the two. There's a little cute picture of Luca on her bag and Keisha on her. It's genius. It's fantastic. And it comes when we need it. There's no carrying the heavy bags. We are tracking consumption rates to make sure that we don't run out. It's absolutely a genius concept, a transformational one that Purina's put in place, and it certainly solved our GI problems in our room. Thank goodness. Now, these are Luca and Keisha you see here, 2 best friends. Quick announcement. Before we move on to the next place, please today stop by the DEG booth to experience this Purina just right for yourself and enter to win a year of personalized dog food for you. Have your little face on it. You can go through that process. Here you go. Oh, he has a little bag coming to his house. I filled the 4 months for him. That's going to be funny, isn't it? I mean, it's that bag of food. Maybe that's only funny to me. Speaking of best friends, I'd like to welcome 2 guys on the stage here. Both of you know Mark, who I thought did a genius job last night on the stage with Malcolm, and for the first time here so far, President of PayPal, David Marcus.
Because I asked him. Going to be following a man shooting T-shirts into the crowd and a story about pot-smoking dogs with digestive problems. So that's right. Welcome, David. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us here. So there's a lot of things that we'd like to talk to you about today. And I think, a proper introduction. When I first met David, I was negotiating with him to buy his company as CEO of Zom. And we were kind of across the table from each other. And it turned out well for him. It also turned out well for me that we stayed friends during the negotiation, because less than a year after that, he became my boss at PayPal. So that worked out well for me. Worked out well for you. And Dave is also my neighbor, and currently my friend. So we'll see how that pick will determine. Yeah, we're going to determine how that ends up. So David, I'm going to start this off with a bit of a quiz. Okay. What do you have in common with Oprah Winfrey, Sir here, Ron Perlman, and Nigerian banker Jim Obiet on the cover of Forbes magazine. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that fantastic? But you know, none of them had the word $15 trillion, stamped across their thighs there, so your chest. So we're going to get back to that because I thought that was pretty interesting. So we have the list of things to talk about. We also have the forbidden list of things that PR won't let us talk about. Let's talk about that. Let's go there. Okay, let's go right there. You've been my mentor for a lot of things. One of the things is social media, because you're a wizard on social media. Although I think you want to have one of the best marketing people, Christina Smedley, behind you. So one of the best executives out there. So there is some secret to your magic. And you taught me things like his first tweet to me was, "Dude, if you want to get anybody following you, you need a profile and a photo." And that helped tremendously. Yeah. And then last night, I don't know if some of you noticed, but David actually taught me how to take my first selfie, and I tweeted that out, and there it is right there. I think it's a little unfair, though. I mean, you were clearly ready for this picture, and I look like I didn't have my attention. So, I don't know what that was all about. But you are really good at this. As a matter of fact, David put out a famous one the other day with the PayPal new branding that went viral. So you actually have quite a talent at these selfies. As a matter of fact, I found some more from you. You were with Ellen DeGeneres. I didn't realize this, and there you were in that famous. So that was amazing. How did you do that? And then if you keep going backwards in time, I had no idea that you had a relationship with Barack Obama. That's just amazing. It's a great picture of you two. And in the Rolling Stones, really? You're with the Rolling Stones? That's fantastic. But this one, I think this one kind of tops it all. How did you do that? I mean, you've got a lot of skills there. But
I should have known I would get it by accepting this.
Oh yeah, you should have seen the other stuff we had to cut. So anyway, David, seriously, I think that from your perch as the CEO of PayPal, you talk a lot about just the vision for money and where it's going. So I'd love for you to share with us sort of that vision, where you think commerce is going in relation to that, because the two are very intertwined, aren't they?
Yes, they are. I think, look, money has not been reinvented in such a long time. We went from barter to cash to plastic. But plastic and swiping cards has been around for about 40 years and didn't change much. And cash is still around, and we talk to merchants that have retail presence, and they say cash is 50-60% of their transactions still today.
Still.
And the reality is, this is bound to change because we've got smartphones with broadband connectivity, and every single merchant will soon have an iPad or a connected device in the store. So why do you need all of the complexity of money the way it's used today? So I think it's ripe for reinvention. I think we're just around the corner of a massive reinvention of money and how it moves around the world. There are really interesting things happening that we do. There are interesting things happening outside of Bitcoin, and I think that it's bound to change in the next 5 to 10 years in a more profound way than it has in the last 50.
Yeah. Let's talk about what PayPal's doing, because I think it's going to take some agents of change for transformation in this space. And you and I have talked a lot about it. You've been doing things at PayPal differently in order to meet that challenge. Things around culture, design, product. How's all that going?
It's work in progress, but we've come a long way. And if you look at the number of products that we launched in the last 12, 18 months, it's 5x the number of products we launched in the last couple of years combined. And all of them are not new products. They're reinvention of existing products that needed reinvention. But we're getting there, and I think we've got a little bit north of 140 million active customers around the world, and they trust us. They trust the brand, and we have an ability because we control the entire chain from. Is all of you guys, all of our partners, the developers, the community out there, and we connect everyone for transactions better than anyone else. So,
So it's going
it's really in
well.
our hands.
Yeah. So you mentioned Magento as a partner. Can you tell us how does PayPal think about Magento and in the community and this really the platform that we have here, and in general, how is PayPal approaching open source?
Open source is super important for the world, but also for this ecosystem. Right? If you look at this conference and about 2,000 attendees on the Magento platform, super vibrant community. I mean, for us, we really recommitted to open source in the last 18 months. We now have a head of open source, Danny Cooper, who's now leading that for us at PayPal. We recommit things to the open source ecosystem, like we now have a JavaScript application framework for large teams collaborating on front-end experiences with Kraken that we've kind of pushed out to the open. And so it's very important, and I think Magento is just such a great success story of a phenomenal community that comes together and build amazing things for customers. And we're very happy and proud to be part of it.
Now, one of the unique things, though, about open source and Magento community is developers get to make choices about things. And we've got a lot of competing functionality, and there's certainly a lot of other payment capabilities. How do you view that? How does a company like PayPal deal with that?
It needs to be open, right? Because otherwise, if you start favoriting one thing versus another, then the whole model breaks down. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to be the best at what we do and compete for share, and it seems like we do a decent job on the Magento platform because I think from a payment standpoint, PayPal is the number one option. I'm super eager to push the brain-free solutions around pure credit card processing more and more into the Magento community. I think it's doing really well.
One brain-free fan person.
And so I think it should be open and people should compete and make the best product with.
Yeah, so talk a little bit more about Braintree and your plans for that, and how that acquisition is going. And you guys have some programs too designed to integrate with developers and startups.
Well, I mean, I'm super jazzed up with the acquisition of Braintree and Venmo. Braintree is such a phenomenal team, and their service to developers, the white glove service that they provide, the fact that they were built and designed from the ground up for developers is a huge asset for us. And so the way we're looking at it is mobile. They have great SDKs. They have Tower, like Intel Tonight, etc. But on the web as well. I mean, they have the absolute best solutions for processing card transactions, and those things are going to come together. So the PayPal SDKs and the Braintree SDKs are going to come together to offer a one-stop shop for developers. And you mentioned the incentive programs that we put together, and they're great. I mean, there's PayPal Blueprint that waives fees, I think, up to $1.6 million and then the same thing with Braintree, So, if you're a developer out there and doing something about experience, now we PayPal Braintree, hard process and PayPal Brent and plus,
Well, it's $15 trillion number. That certainly does get people's attention. You and I have talked about this a lot. When I came to PayPal, we were decidedly just an online company. We go out in the press and say, not interested. State the position that we were going to be in all channels of commerce. But it's been hard, right? There's a lot of barriers to that. How do you see it going? How do we break through this? Because there's clearly better ways to pay than carrying around pieces of plastic and.
Well, I think local is hard, right? Yeah. Because you have millions of small businesses out there, and they're very busy individuals, and they run their business, have to change light bulbs and clean the store at night and buy inventory and all that stuff, and they don't have time to think about take that point of sale system that I've used for years and I'm going to replace it with something new. The reality is it's going to happen over time because mobile is going to make it happen. I think, actually, I think that Magento could be a sales system that would be open source and things and make it available to the world out there. I think that could accelerate it. So if you guys want to cool. But other than that, I think we're going to get there. More and more point of sale systems are now iPads or Android tablets that are connected to the internet, and that will transform the payment experience in mobile.
Anybody out there for an open source point of sale system powered by Magento? Maybe? Yeah.
There you go.
So what's exciting to you in terms of what's next and around the corner? David he brought from in our offices there at PayPal. He brought a gong from Zong that goes long when things don't go wrong. So has the Zong gone bombed recently on any big things?
That's a good question.
I just made that up right now, by the way.
He actually did. Yeah, I think that there are a bunch of milestones that we crossed. I think we're excited about. You're talking about like store experiences. We're excited with the experience that we're pushing out there with Beacon that enables a true hands-free payment to the world. So that's definitely one we're excited about.
Can you explain Beacon a little bit?
Yeah, so Beacon is so. So there's iBeacon and the traditional beacons, which is basically a pre-done piece of hardware that's got Bluetooth Low Energy 4.0, and basically you trip that thing and it knows you're here. I mean, your phone knows you're here because there's a beacon there. Our beacon is completely different because it's connected. So we designed the chipset, we designed everything, and we assembled it. It's basically Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and a bunch of other stuff for security there. And so because it's a connected beacon, it can communicate two ways with your phone. And so if you enter a store, you can push information to the phone, even if the phone is not connected to any broadband connection, which is very helpful if you're at other places. So, we just wanted to take the payment experience to a place where it was better than swiping a card, which is not hard.
Right. Well, it's, when you do the beacon experience, I mean, you want to pay that way all the time for everything. It's just so compelling. And yet, frustration is getting it through that ecosystem.
Yeah, it's going to take time. Hey, there's no doubt. The other thing we're super excited about is our new mobile SDK.
Yeah.
So you can see it if you don't have the Uber app, download the Uber app, the latest version, and you can connect your PayPal account to Uber, and that's our latest SDK. It's a one-time auth thing, and then it's a one-touch payment from that point on, which is pretty exciting, and we're investing very heavily in that SDK. We'll have a bunch of and that's one I'm really excited about because if you combine that SDK with the Braintree SDK, you really have the best-in-class mobile payment experience on mobile. So that's exciting.
That is pretty cool. So let's go to Bitcoin. Why not? There's been so much about it, and we've obviously had a lot of debates about it. And PayPal has an official position on it. Maybe you can describe that. But in broader terms, it goes back to your vision of where money's going and how it has to evolve. And disruption in money has a lot of governmental barriers to it, has a lot of security barriers to it. And so how do you think digital currencies evolve, specifically Bitcoin? Do you care to comment?
Well, I mean, the geek in me loves the blockchain because it solves a fundamental problem of trust. And it's really a Byzantine problem that was solved here, which is basically how you let trust be managed by a bunch of nodes, and if 51% of them say that you're right, then you are right. And the math behind that is awesome. And so it solves a problem not only for digital currency, but in this case, for Bitcoin, it's an amazing thing because you can move value around the world with no one in between to actually control it. So if you're a libertarian, it's extremely exciting. But more if we look at where we are now, I think that it doesn't make for a great currency yet because of the volatility. So it's a good store of value if you live in a country like Argentina or Venezuela, where your dollar is worth 60 cents the next year.
Right.
You're probably better off storing your currency and your earnings in Bitcoin than actually in your bank.
It's easier than selling diamonds into your jacket or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's available to everyone.
Right.
And so
But it has that feel to it, sort of a store of value to hide.
Yeah, for now
not
it's
necessarily.
yeah, I mean, for now it's
Something
more
paying for
of, for now it's more stored value in an investment vehicle. For those who believe that it's going to appreciate, and I'm certainly one of them. But it might become a currency later. That's why at PayPal we're tracking it very closely. And we'll see where the regulatory framework evolves, and we'll see how we can, if it comes to it, how we can actually make it better by providing services around it when the time comes. But it's too early.
But it feels like PayPal has all the elements of this, right? I mean, you're a translator of currency. You can create fungibility out of things that are either government-backed fiat currencies or stored value or loyalty reward points currencies. I feel like you're like a step away from being able to create a digital type currency.
So yeah, totally. I mean, so if you look at countries where the home currency is very efficient, like the U.S. So if you look at the dollar, it's a super efficient currency. It's not volatile, and it's super liquid. It's accepted everywhere. In those types of markets, you don't need another currency. I mean, there's no need for another currency. And when you think about it, if you download the PayPal app, if you don't have it, you can send money now to Europe and convert your dollars into euros instantaneously from your mobile phone, and 1 second later, it's there. So from a consumer standpoint, if you're talking about moving money around, it's true that PayPal is in a way the Bitcoin for fiat currency, network for fiat currency. It's centralized, not distributed, but it performs the same function.
Yeah. So you guys are close to that, right? You should probably get your head of strategy or something working on it. Find a good one.
You wouldn't do that thing.
Well, with Magento, we certainly would help with that. In terms of, so let's go to your own kind of personal story here a little bit, because I think it's fascinating. I don't think we have time to go into the whole biography of David Marcus, but but it's quite a journey. The thing that I've always been fascinated by is you moved your family, you moved your company in 2000 and
Early 2008.
Early 2008, moved to the United States, and the tight band of entrepreneurs that you formed all help each other and know each other really well. And that seems to be something that's really important to you in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation and things like that. And then you find yourself, running PayPal, which is a very entrepreneurial company, but certainly very far cry from what you came in 2008. A lot of people in the audience here are running small businesses, looking for funding, looking to grow, do something great. Can you talk just a little bit about that period of your life and how things changed and what you think is important about you?
Well, I think, well, first of all, it's super exciting to launch something new and to have the appetite to change the world. So, crowd here is truly representative of that. And I think the key is always to, fight harder than others if you're competing, and be as resilient as possible, but at the same time be as agile as possible to, move when new data comes in that proves you wrong, or that the product is not exactly what the customer wants. You need to be able to iterate and advance with it. And that's what we did back in the days. I mean, I got here in 2008 in Silicon Valley, didn't know many people, and found Hill Ferguson, who worked with me at Zong, and who's now running whole product at PayPal, and we started building Zong, and we found our vector of growth, which is always key, by the way, for any startup. You need to find your vector of growth. If you're a consumer-centric company, you need to get consumer adoption, but if you need to work with other companies, you need to find that one company that's going to take you to the next stage. For us, it was Facebook. And with Facebook credits and the gaming piece of it. and it went by really, really fast. I mean, you know that you can work, and by the way, I worked for like 10 years before doing that on connected carriers over in that then ended up being Amazon until I got to Silicon Valley and got to the state velocity that was needed. And so sometimes it can be a 10-year overnight success. You have to work, and and then at some point you hit that inflection point.
People don't see all that work. They sometimes just see the exit and they think, "Oh, that was easy." But, even with Roy and Adi, around the kitchen table with Marion starting what became Magento, it's
you've got hundreds of near-death experiences.
That's right. That's right. And it becomes very special to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, David Marcus, thank you for joining us at Imagine.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I had my first daughter, Alex, and then I had my second daughter, Ani. And I looked at these beautiful little girls and I said, now what? And I remember thinking to myself, now's the time to show these girls everything that one can do in life. I created a line of cocktail rings, and there were 5 of them. Went in my car, drove to New York, I got a showroom. I started doing private label, keeping the factory really healthy, and at that point, building a brand on the side.
Is getting to the point where we focus on building a brand instead of worried about the heavy technology terminology.
The growth of Alex Money kept expanding and expanding.
We went to use an e-commerce system that allowed us to scale in a way that didn't prevent us from growing.
We needed the eyes of the world to communicate the brand in such a way, and that became explosive. We really needed a platform to keep up with that. And
we kicked off our eBay enterprise relationship with very specific offerings. The first of which was paid search. We needed an agency that was able to not only understand Magento, but scale. We're one of the fastest growing retailers in the world. So it made all the sense in the world for us to invest heavily into the I think what makes Magento good specific to the fashion is the fact that many of our friends in this small sector are very focused on visual identity. So being able to satisfy not only the technical side of the house, but to satisfy all those that are working on the brand. And the unlimited amount of flexibility you have selling your story as opposed to just loading up a bunch of products and allowing consumers to specify them and check out.
What we love about our online presence is that we get to introduce consumers to new charities, and hopefully they embrace the concept and they start thinking in different ways. For the first quarter of 2014, Charity by Design consisted of 25% of the overall business. And that's just 37 products out of over 2,000 SKUs. So that tells you the dynamic and the importance of really getting that message across.
So we launched a Super Bowl ad 3 years ago. We've done it every year since. Last year we were in 27 markets. We had 28,000 peak concurrent sessions. That's a very challenging task to do, to be able to handle that demand. Magento's been there every step of the way.
Another great customer story. Anybody interested in $1,500 coupon to build something? Were you buying all those drinks for me last night? Shame on you for that. You're a bad man. Anybody else out there, maybe? See if we can do that. I'm gonna double some close because I can't shoot at you here without hurting somebody. So I wanted to make it a little bit more safe. Safety first. Tossing up like that, it's hard to see. There you go. Well, we should just say off the top to Mark and David, thank you for that. What a great talk. I think Mark is going to give Charlie Rose a run for his money. The guy is becoming a great interviewer. We saw that last night. So I have the honor to introduce our next speaker, and we all have the great pleasure of being able to hear her speak. Anyone here ever dreamed of flight?
not the 3 a.m. falling out of your Vegas hotel dream, proper commanded flight. I grew up with that dream. My grandfather was a fighter pilot in the Second World War. Mustangs were shot down over the English Channel, miraculously survived. It would make sense, become a hero of mine growing up. I think it's probably why sporting athletes have never been heroes in our family. That's that generation, my grandfather, who fought in the war. He was a very special man and cut from a particular kind of cloth. Well, our next speaker comes from that same fabric. We have the great treat to bless our stage shortly from now, the world's first female F-14 Tomcat fighter pilot in the U.S. Navy. I don't know, that's an amazing accomplishment. Flying aircraft through the sky at Mach 2. This gal is very, very fast. And in order to make that all happen, she is also an incredible pioneer. You'll hear through the story the challenging environment in which she functioned and the incredibly rapid changing environment where when things go wrong, we're not talking about livelihoods that we're concerned about here in terms of e-commerce, we're talking about lives. And it's going to be a fantastic next short term. She's also an author. Her book, Fearless Leadership, is on the shelves this fall. I'd like you to please welcome CEO of Carrie Lawrence Enterprises, Carrie Lawrence.
I'm super excited to see that this many of you showed up this morning because it was a big night last night, right? I was following the Twitter stream a little bit, and there are some of you who are clearly going to be powered by a lot of caffeine today. And that's not a bad thing. But as Jamie said, I was one of the first females to be assigned in the United States Navy to fly on and off of aircraft carriers. So I was a pioneer in that field, and I was very fortunate in that I was able to spend about 10 years planning, briefing, and executing really complex missions as a Navy fighter pilot. But what's more relevant for you all today to know is that in the last 10 years or so, I've been working with outstanding leaders just like yourselves, from Fortune 1 companies through Fortune 500 companies, and all different types of associations and organizations. So what I would like to do today is share some of those lessons learned, some of those things that I discovered on really the journey from being a small town, Western girl, to a pioneer in naval aviation, but also the business experiences and some of those lessons learned along the way. Some of those things that I hope will help you really, understand what it's like to have a really extreme sense of purpose that will spark some new ideas and really drive some collaborative relationships, because that is going to be the key for your long-term success. So what I would like to do though first is introduce you into my office, into the cockpit of a $50 million fighter jet. Now, oh, there are my kids. Okay, so I have 4 kids, too. I kind of forgot that was in there. You might not know that I actually have 4 kids, like a picture. Yes, quite on that one. So, oh, hey.
Muchas gracias. Hello.
Mascot, because it was a pretty big night. I think Adam was working maybe. But hey, where I spent my time, the majority of my time, was inside this office of this $50 million aircraft. So this is a position that is not just mentally challenging, but it's physically challenging as well. Now, why is that? Oftentimes, what people don't know, as naval carrier pilots, we're responsible for not only flying the airplanes, but running the actual squadrons themselves. So that's really 250 to 300 people with assets valued at about $1 billion. So we have to go very, very quickly from being a maintenance officer or an educational services officer to kind of doing that Top Gun thing, right? Climbing into that airplane, where once we get in that airplane, we're launched off the front end of that flight deck, going from 0 to 200 miles an hour in under 2 seconds flat. Within a couple of minutes, I'm going about 450, 500 miles an hour, all the while responsible for leading 2, 4, 6, 8, sometimes 20 wingmen safely to a target, and then back to the aircraft carrier again. Now, for those of you who are sitting in the back, when we come back to land, this is where we make our big money, right? Okay, seriously? Now, anybody here been in the military? Yeah, hey, did you guys make big money? Yeah, me neither. So my humor is bad, but it's continuous, at least. Back land on this aircraft carrier, it looks like it's about the size of a postage stamp. That's what it looks like from my perspective as well. So it's really challenging because every time you land, it's essentially like a controlled car crash because we hit the deck so hard. But as long as we've made it through that inner space when we're flying, what we call in that three-dimensional battlefield, hopefully we'll be okay. But the biggest challenge sometimes is actually just staying conscious. Because oftentimes we can pull 6 to 8 Gs, or 8 times the force of gravity. Now, right now, for a little bit of math in public, we're all sitting here and we're at 1 G, right? 1 times the force of gravity. But when you pull back on that stick and pull 8 Gs, if you normally weigh 200 pounds, your body instantaneously now weighs 1,600 pounds. So the challenge is staying conscious because all the blood is pulling from your brain. It's trying to settle in your lower body cavity, and it's actually trying to escape through your toes. So it feels like your toenails are going to pop off. I know that's really good, like breakfast conversation. I apologize for that, but that's kind of like the glamorous part where they forget to tell you what it's like about being a fighter pilot. Hey, you shouldn't do this. Oftentimes it feels like your toenails are going to pop off. Well, sign me up for that, right? That's a good time. So what I want to do is show you this video, and what you're going to see is what it takes to actually launch off the aircraft carrier, then be engaged in a 1-versus-1 battlefield, battle, and then we'll come back and we'll land on the aircraft carrier. So sit back, relax, and let's go take a flight off the aircraft carrier. So what do you think? Just like the movies, right? That's a good time. What are some of the things that you see in that video, though? Okay, audience participation, right? Concentration, yeah, a lot of heavy breathing too. Something that always sticks out for me too, and hey, this is not anything against men. I love men. It's a man's world. That's awesome. Did you notice that even when he's on the verge of passing out, he still tells himself he's doing a fantastic job? I think that's crazy. It's crazy to me. He's like, oh, nice. I'm like, yeah, dude, you have time to tell yourself you're doing a good job. Like, where's there room for your ego in that cockpit? But what's really important, I think, to see, and for you to also pick up on is that something that's really, really cool. We have like 350 switches and dials in this cockpit, right? And we've got like 42 different sounds, things that are constantly pulling our attention. And yet, even with all that information, the things that are pulling us to do what? To look down and go, oh, hang on a second, I got to answer this real quick. Right? Oh, no, oh, someone else is, hold on. Can you imagine having 42 different sounds on your phone? Some of you are probably sitting there, it's going right now, it's buzzing, and you're like, don't look at it, don't look at it. No, it's okay if you look at it. It's right, but 42 different ways. Holy mackerel, we'd be like ADD by noon, right? Because your attention is so scattered. But yet, when you're engaged with the competition, when you're engaged with the threat, where does your focus need to be? Up and out, right? You don't win when you're in a competitive environment looking down, responding to emails. You win when you're engaged and you're focused on what matters. And the interesting thing about this, when we're working on that flight deck, the average age of 5,000 people on the aircraft carrier, 19 and a half years old. 19 and a half. Now my oldest daughter is 17, and I look at that and go, she's going to launch me off the front end of the aircraft carrier. I don't even know if I trust her to drive sometimes at night. Now she's going to be doing that. But it's crazy, and the rate of turnover that we have is amazing. Every about 9 months, half of that population turns over. So we need to be very, very good at sharing lessons learned and understanding how do we get a group of very, very diverse people aligned very quickly and focused on one mission. This is this idea of what I call being the catalyst. It's you being able to come into your organization, and whether you have 2 people that you're working with or you're running, a group of 30 platform developers, whatever that may be, that you can get everybody aligned, and so they're headed in the same direction, so you get to where you're going faster. In my world, anything slow is bad. Same thing in your world. The only thing that we want slow to be around or involved in is our competition, right? Then slow is a good thing. But for us, it can put our businesses out of business, essentially. So how do we do this? We have this extraordinary sense of purpose and focus and discipline. When I was flying this airplane, I was the one in the front because I was Maverick, right? I was the pilot, and then I had, just to be clear on that, I had control, and then I had the guy in the back. Now, you didn't get to choose what squadron you belong to. You don't even get to choose who you're flying with sometimes. And sometimes you may not even like that person. But yet, with extraordinary discipline and with a very, very clear sense of purpose and what it is that you wanted to accomplish, that sense of purpose and focus is what allowed very, very common people like myself to achieve extraordinary things. It's not that we were any smarter than anybody else. It was that we were able to focus on what mattered and get rid of the noise and understand how to prioritize the things that were necessary to become excellent. So that's something I want you to really think about when we're getting pulled in all these different directions and we're worried about the competition and we're worried about what do we do? Are we keeping up? What are they doing? Figure out what matters to you and what's going to help grow your business the quickest. Now, understanding the fact that some people do really well with PowerPoint, I figure I'd entertain that. So if you like bullets in your PowerPoint, you might want to get your camera out because this is about all there's going to be for you. So, which is a good thing, big font, kind of big night, it all goes together. So again, that purpose and focus and discipline is what really allowed us to achieve the uncommon. One of the things that we used to always say in the cockpit is that if you lose sight, you lose the fight. When you reflect back to that video, how much time was spent heads down? None, right? Because you need to know what's going on in your external environment. Understand what your competition and what the threat is while you're staying focused on those things that matter. So I'm going through, I graduate from college and I head off to Aviation Officer Candidate School. And this is an extraordinarily competitive program to try to get into. It's one of the first steps to becoming a naval aviator. Now, one of the really interesting things that people don't know sometimes is that Although we were Navy owned, we were Marine Corps trained. So it's this 16-week program, and you show up, and the first thing is, you wake up to about 5 of these lovely young gentlemen screaming niceties in your ear. And I was really fortunate. This was my drill instructor, and he was retired after graduating our class. So his claim to fame up to that point was, at no point had he ever let a female who started with his class actually graduate with his class. Otherwise known as a barrier to entry, right, or an obstacle. So the way I'm kind of wired is, I see that as a challenge, right? You're going to tell me I can't do something or no one's ever done it before? Alrighty then. So he made this time that we spent together extraordinarily compelling and challenging. I spent a lot of time face down in a pile of sweat, super glamorous. But what they did was they tried to break you down physically and psychologically as well, to see that if under stress and duress, you were able to be a really good teammate and still make great decisions and exercise initiative, even when you didn't think you had the opportunity or the chance to be successful. But I don't want you to think it was all drilling or mindless things like lots of advanced water survival, otherwise known as drown-proof training. But there was plenty of that, and interestingly enough, again, as a naval aviator, this is kind of part of it where we lose a lot of people in the program. Because everybody says, oh gosh, I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. And I'm like, oh, it's pretty awesome. Yeah, but I don't like to swim. And like being a naval aviator involves water, right? So we're losing people during this training, and guys are dropping out because you've seen Deadliest Catch, and people get plucked out of the water, and I'm never going to get back on a boat again. I almost drowned. Well, they do this to you intentionally. So we're losing these guys, and we had this great Coast Guard crew that decided they needed to do something different. So somebody had a bag of marshmallows. And when they pulled one of the guys out of the water, they shoved a marshmallow in his mouth. True story. So what happens when you put a marshmallow in your mouth? So it expands, right? And it gets hot. See, you've done this. The rest of you just aren't willing to admit it. So when you're panicked and you think you're going to die, and you shove a marshmallow in your mouth, your brain automatically redirects, right? And it's like, ooh, there's like a happy party going on in my mouth. And suddenly, you're okay with it. It's all right. You made it. You're still alive. So my lesson learned from that is that sometimes when you're right? It is. And if it's good enough for the government and the government trusts it, maybe you can too. But they push us through all these things, they push us past our limits and make us uncomfortable all the time because they're intentionally forcing us to fail. Because what we know is that eventually a very small percentage of us will go on to fly these fighter aircraft on and off aircraft carriers. When you're deployed 1,000 miles away from any place to land, and that's not the time when essentially, my asset is strapped into your $50 million asset, and I go, oh my God, this is too hard. I can't do this. Because there aren't any other options. You either eject or you crash. And both of those are suboptimal, shall we say. So they want you to be able to figure out how do you handle the fear of failure. Because the fear of failure is so paralyzing, and it's something that not all of us suffer from. And Malcolm even talked about it last night, whether we're afraid to be all afraid to fail. And what happens is when we're afraid to fail, we pass up really, really valuable opportunities because we get scared. Now, clearly, this is a very creative group, and you guys are pushing the limits on what it is you can do. But when you think about that, when you get to this point of discomfort, that's where you need to press through, right? Because you need to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I always say if you're not doing something every day that either gives you a little knot in your stomach or a lump in your throat, then you're not pushing yourself far enough. We live down the edges of the envelope, both physically and psychologically. But when you're on the edges of those envelopes, it starts to do something and develop into something extraordinary. So don't be afraid to fail. Failure will happen. It's just what you do with it that will define you. Okay, so I know there are probably a couple of folks in here who like a good bar graph, right? A couple of hands going up. It's okay. Yeah, that's all right. I'm not a bar graph girl. I'm more pictures. So again, producer, if you like the bar graph, take a happy snappy of it because it's the only one you're going to get. But it's this idea of your mindset and about failure, and it has money wrapped around it. But they did this big study, and they did some research about 3 years ago, and they looked at the houses with a net income of $50,000 to $80,000. Only 1 out of 5 of the people said that failure had taught them something. You start going into the people who are making pretty good bank, right? $10 to $30 million, probably some of you in this room. And suddenly those numbers change. Now it's 80% say failure has taught them something. You go to the uber wealthy, and now you're looking at 95%. So when we think about this, it's this idea of what do you take from those lessons learned? What do you take from your failures? Do you take a lesson from it, take it on, and move forward? You kind of drop anchor and that, oh gosh, I should have never done that. I wish I would have done this. Never going to do that again. Kind of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. So we need to be able to move through those failures and take those lessons learned on board very, very quickly. And when we talk about this again, when we talk about an extreme sense of purpose and a very deliberate focus, fear hates focus. When you start to identify your 3 priorities or maybe your 5 priorities, you start worrying much less about the differing outcomes because you're so focused on success, right? Fear hates focus. So how do we do this? We have this great opportunity here at Imagine 2014 to develop extraordinary relationships and networking together and pulling these lessons learned, even when some folks in here are your competitors, right? Because what are the chances that they'll probably execute on what you shared with them anyway? Probably pretty slim. But don't be afraid to share those lessons learned. Part of developing these great relationships, though, is this ability to trust each other and to know that you both have the same end in mind, right? The same mission objective, developing outstanding platforms that are scalable and are replicable as well. The Navy Blue Angels really exemplify what I believe to be a very, very solid trusting relationship. For those of you who have seen them before, you know that they fly about 18 to 24 inches apart, oftentimes going about 400 miles an hour. Now, to be very clear, I was not a Blue Angel, right? I was an F-14 Tomcat pilot. If I was a Navy Blue Angel, you would probably be up here talking about me instead of me talking about me, because I would be that awesome, right? So how could I be bothered to talk about myself? And I just sort of, I've got friends who are Blue Angels, and if they were actually in the audience right now, I would probably bust their chops even harder. But to be clear then, so I flew the we were 36 to 48 inches apart. For those of you that had the opportunity to talk with already, you'll know I'm quite tall. I'm 6 feet tall. So why is that relevant? Well, if I stand here and put my arms out, or my wings out, if you will, from my center point to my 6 inches. So when you think about that, and you look to your left and look to your right, and if you were to put your hands out right now, and you say, you know, look over and go, would I trust the girl sitting next to me? Like, to be a really good wingman or partner? It's okay, you can look at each other. The answer might be yes, it might be no. But then you have to take it one step further and say, would you trust that person enough to fly 500 miles an hour next to them, with one of you upside down and on top of the other one? Oh, I know, you dirty birdies, we're in Vegas. Your mind has gone a totally different direction on that. That's not what I meant. But what we're talking about is developing these really good, tight relationships where you trust in each other, you believe in each other, to show up on time, on target, where you said you were going to be. That following up and that following through and simply doing what you said you were going to do is one of the biggest things that you can do to start building really, really good, solid, collaborative relationships with each other. All right, so back to my story for just a second. So I'm graduating from Officer Candidate School. You can probably see this is my original drill instructor. So yay for me. I probably wrecked his retirement, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. But there is still all this discussion about whether or not women should be in combat. And the nobody to have anybody flying in combat, no females yet. So there were all these barriers. So they sent somebody actually down to interview me to have a discussion. And clearly it was a very important interview. You can tell simply by the size of the microphone. I know, right? There was not a detail missed in this. But it's actually Wolf Blitzer. So this was an extraordinary opportunity for him. And I think it launched his career. I hear he's doing pretty well now. And I haven't heard a lot from him lately, so I hope he's okay. Anyway, so this idea, though, that we can survive solo, you can do okay, you can be successful, but if you're really looking to take it to the next level, we need to work together on this to pass along those lessons learned and to be a great wingman or a great teammate. So I'm going through flight school. Still lots and lots of barriers. You know, women aren't allowed to fly. There's a lot of back channel chatter on this, and people didn't want this to happen. And I'm almost all the way through my training when I get pulled out of this briefing and I'm told, hey, there's no place for you in the Navy. I'm 2 years into this. You might as well get out or we'll get you a different job in the Navy. And that was a really good option for me, right? I knew what I wanted. I was there to fly. I was there to fly fighters, not to go and be an administrative officer. So I had to go back into this commanding officer and talk to him and say, you know, essentially, that's not going to work for me. You need to find a third way. And those aren't the conversations you have, really, with a commanding officer. They're like the boss of the squadron. This guy is old as dirt. I mean, he's like 45. Right? I'm all of like 22. You know, after about a week or so, they were going to do something very different. They were going to write instructor until Congress passed the law that would then allow women to fly. So they were going to write orders for me for 18 months because clearly Congress works that fast, right? So what could go wrong with that? I'm sure I would get there. But I stayed focused on what mattered. I knew it was important to me. So every day, even when I didn't think there was going to be opportunity to go and fly fighters, I performed as if I were tracking right with my male counterparts, my male cohorts, if you will. And again, every barrier, every obstacle was placed in front of me. And I just stayed focused on where it was that I wanted to end up. And I wanted to end up in the cockpit of a strike fighter aircraft. So eventually, I did graduate right on time with my classmates. And right as we were going through the process of selecting our aircraft, it was the same day that the Secretary of Defense signed into law the exclusion clause lifting the prohibition on women flying. So imagine if I wouldn't have gone in and asked for a different way, or if I just kind of gave up and said, you know what, this is never going to work, it's too hard, I can't change a culture all by myself. This is crazy, what was I thinking? But instead, I stuck with it, because again, I just stayed focused on what mattered. I had this sense of purpose, and I kept working as if. What if the opportunity presented itself? So here I am super fired up because I'm headed out to Miramar, California, right? This is the home of Top Gun. It's so exciting, right? I've got the Jeep, I've got the big fat beach tires on it, the leather flight jacket, and I get to go and fly a really extraordinary airplane. But it was a very, very how to integrate women into these fighter squadrons, and there was a big reduction. Of course, tailhook had happened out here in Vegas. If you don't know what it is, you can Google it, one word or two, it doesn't matter. It involved Las Vegas, a lot of alcohol, and some super bad decisions. I'll leave it at that. So it was an extraordinarily challenging environment to try to work within. The pressures of being a pioneer, as well as simply learning how to fly this airplane, were really, really tough. But there were some tricks to this of how you prepare to perform that will actually allow you to prevail in the end. One of these things, and remember, focusing on what matters, is people say, you know, I don't really have time to plan, so I'm doing, right? I'm busy in the business. Well, the reason you're so busy is because you're firefighting, because you haven't taken the time to plan really effectively. really lining out very clear objectives and very clear expectations. We often struggle with this in a creative field because we think, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy being creative. You know, we still have to have some structure to this. And it's not just me who thinks this, though. Harvard Business Review did a study that said 1 hour of effective planning, just 1 hour, can save you 200 execution errors. That's extraordinary. So take the time to write this down. Write down what your plan is. It doesn't matter if it's just on a little Post-it note or it's a little more sophisticated than that. We want to take the time to write this out so our team knows what they can count on. Now, what is this going to require of you, though? It's going to require, if we're going to change the way we operate and collaborate more effectively together, it's going to require you overcoming some of your fears, whether that's fear of the competition, fear of failure, or just not sure what the future holds. So I'm going to share with you a video that shows how it's a video showing an airplane or pilots who are not being able to get aboard the aircraft carrier at night. And why does that matter? Well, first of all, it's billions of dollars worth of assets that are at risk, right, on a nightly basis, and lives are at risk. So because having a great attitude is really foundational to a lot of the stuff that we do as well, we change some of the terminology for bad things. Like if we're out of gas, well, that bingo, right? Because how else are you supposed to sound cool on the radios when you're out of gas and you think you're going to flame out, other than going 107, bingo. All right, 107, keep it going. Because you got to sound cool on the radios, right? You got it all together. You're sounding good, you're looking good, and you're out of gas. That's all right. So what you're going to see is these airplanes who can't get aboard, and they're having to work through fear of failure.
After the 7th guy in the row bolter, I wonder how many tankers I can launch and how long this goes before we start getting some people aboard and recover.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 15 bolters. We're way off so far.
When the ship gets to side-to-side rolling, it makes your instruments kind of do funny things in the cockpit. So you're just kind of coming down and you're kind of blinking your eyes, trying to make sure you're on center line. Yeah.
Shit down.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy cow, I'm a little high. And next thing you know, and so now you're in the Bolter wave-off pattern, and you're looking at all these other airplanes that are in the Bolter wave-off path with you.
I don't replay on my head.
And stay with it.
I don't 3 on my head. Course to course.
Seriously, that was the first time I ever really felt like I am about to hit the back of the ship. I am about to smash into the back of the ship and go into a million pieces. So, you're bringing the power on, and I'm like, that's all I'm giving you, man.
It's in there.
never breathed so fast and so hard in my life. It was something. I was shaking. God. Definitely one of the most stressful experiences I've ever had.
You want to look at ISIS? Did you watch the whole bunch of that?
All I know is I was in close, and they're like, little power. I looked down, and I saw back of the ship above me. And I was like, ah!
There's been times it looks like guys are probably looking down on the deck, and the deck just comes up, catches them, and they trap.
And I can just hear Val, like, they're giving it power, because they get power, and all of a sudden, they're just like, from the deck, like, above me, it just goes, boom! And I was like, hey, everybody down there, how y'all doing? I'm gonna stay up here. It's safe up here. I need a drink. Shaking still.
Good times, huh? Good times. But the reason I share that with you again is because we all internalize, we all feel that fear when we're trying to do something that makes us extraordinarily uncomfortable. And yet, even in an environment like this, where the risk is your life, with that sense of purpose, staying focused on what matters and knowing what it is you need to accomplish is when you can start really stepping into your own and achieving those things. So you can even hear what he says, I want to stay up here and stay up here. So it's not that we don't have that stuff running through our minds too. It's that we're still able to execute in spite of that feeling of discomfort, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So when you think about how you're going to transform this industry, how you transform this space, you are all on the leading edge. And it's an amazing place to be because the opportunities are enormous. Will there be challenges and barriers? Heck yeah, there will be. But the payoff on the other side is fantastic. As long as you're able to really work together again and collaborate and step into that space, it'll be fantastic. Okay, quick short pitch for my book. It's coming out October 7th. I'm going to address the elephant in the room for about 2 shakes. Right now, because some of the other publishers are still loading this, it's available on Amazon. I know, right? No, don't do that. But here's the good news. Just like Malcolm not having any control of his Amazon books, mine is currently 30% off. Who knew? So you're a bonus for that if you're so interested. Lots of cool lessons learned in there, some of the military stuff, and very, very readable. Nice short pieces, chunks, if you can't dedicate a ton of time at once to that. So knock yourself out. But hey, risk-taking and being fearless are going to go hand in hand. Again, you have the opportunity to redefine the playing field on this. Don't be afraid to grab that courage and step forward. Work together, work with your competitors, and go out there and be fearless. Just show up. Showing up is half the battle. So thanks for your time today. You guys have been amazing, and go out and get big again tonight. Thank you very much.
Scary, everybody. I was just trying to figure out if I was like a pilot, should we like slap low, we do high five. Here's what I'm thinking. Mountain climbers are lame. Jet fighter pilots rock. I suck. She's awesome. That was great. I really enjoyed that. I got some great nuggets out of all of that. The best one, I mean, there are many, and I don't want to just highlight one in particular. I like this notion that fear hates focus. Fear hates focus. Oh, that's just the thing I'm going to take for today. We have some fun things to focus on here to wrap up this session for you. But first, let's play another video to celebrate another one of Magento's customers.
My brother had the crazy notion of bringing fruit to California and actually crushing and descending and being here in Manhattan. A little bit outside of the norm, but it does work. Oh, sorry, we have the one train running underneath us. Probably the only winery in the world with a subway below. City Winery originated as an idea to bring together both wine, culinary, and music. From the beginning, we wanted to create something unique. It didn't exist out there for the customer. Letting them from home pick their exact seat, knowing that it's because it's a paperless, ticketless venue. You're greeted at the front door by a concierge, brought to your seat. It's a different experience altogether, and there wasn't something out there out of the box for us. We had to do it. So we built a completely custom module around the ticketing, using Magento as our order management system, the platform, that back end, that rock solid foundation. What's great about the solution is out of the box gives you, in our case, over 70% of what we needed. We had to build a lot of custom elements, but right away we got this platform that was solid, and we're very pleased with the platform we chose. When we announced a big artist, last year we had Prince at a last minute event. The load, the spike on the servers was tremendous, and not going down is key. Having that rock solid foundation, that's what Magento gave us. We've seen tremendous growth. More integrations with other systems. We have a lot more locations we're looking to add. We move into mobile commerce. Having more in-house touch points with an app that the customer in our venue and outside have access to their profile, to their consumption information. We have grand ambitions in the Magento platform.
Very cool. And what shot, these videos are just fantastic production value. Really gets the story across. While we're on the theme of beverage and entertainment, I think let's just, as we wrap up this one, we put the focus on a couple of other customers of Magento's, and let's stick with the food and beverage vertical, which is in the top 5 for the company. So these are some of the food and beverage brands using Magento Enterprise, and while the list of brands is quite impressive, it's the story of how they bring these brands to life, right? The experiences that they're creating for their customers. I'm pretty impressed, and I love food, I'm a foodie, and I'm impressed with anything that happens in this regard and how it is that these are just engaging and feeding their customers, which is pretty exciting. I'm on the move a lot. I travel around. I don't actually spend a whole lot of time doing MCing, as we've experienced over the last couple of days. But for my little company in Calgary, to live out there, I'm traveling around trying to run our company and do the odd speak. So I'm constantly looking for healthy snacks. Trying to train for Everest, climbers will consume 5,000 calories a day. And I wish I had known about the next customer that we're going to highlight right now, Nature Box. I wish I had known about them in my Everest days. This company offers all kinds of super tasty, wholesome snacks, which help us, I think, avoid those evil 3 p.m. office donuts. Your subscription will let you choose from a box full of favorites every month, and you can tweak it as you go. And once that's done, then, as if by magic, it arrives. They show up at my door. We're going to have tasty snacks now, running out onto the stage. Here, come, don't be shy, run fast. I'm hungry. I need snacks. What do you have here? It's a perfect box. May I open it? Yes, thank you. Oh, and look, there's snacks inside. We have your Big Island pineapple, salted caramel pretzel pops. That one looks like the best. Let's just give this a little try. Tasty. Take a few of these. Good hair. Love it. Send those to my room. I don't want the kid to eat them. Maybe not the healthiest snack in that bunch, but tasty nonetheless. But I can't live as an adventure on snacks alone, right? So, there's a thought, the dinner that should be put aside here. On the side of a mountain, I eat a lot of freeze-dried, dehydrated food. Is this really annoying that I'm eating while I'm talking? That's one of the most obnoxious things on the planet. How you like? Holy shit, those are dry. In a good way. Nature Box. You didn't want you to hear me drink
little dehydrated today. Not sure about you. We should drink more water. Those were good. So, now that I've got it down, I'm, at home with my wife. I'm on the road a lot, so when I do come home, we like to, make it an event of eating, not rushing it through. Nobody can bring a device to the table. We all sit. My wife and I like to, before we invite the kids in the mayhem that follows, sit down to some apples, right? And as Canadians, we love our cheese. Maybe it's beer, or maybe it's both. It doesn't matter. Anyway, picking a good cheese, it can be kind of tricky, right? I could go to a local gourmet store and talk with a cheesemonger, but that means I got to fight traffic, find a parking place, and often I find cheese stores stink, and not in a good way, kind of like a post-beer league hockey game in Saskatchewan stink, bad smell. I heard Canadian laughter. So from the comfort of my lovely smelling home, I'd much rather prefer to go to Bruno Brothers, their website. These guys have been dealing in food for 75 years. They know their deal. They have 5 locations in Philadelphia. I don't care. I'm not going to Philadelphia anytime soon. So luckily, Magento has powered their site that has a virtual cheese monger. This virtual monger of the fromage asks me questions about my price, the range, maybe the occasion, what I'm going to be drinking to go with the cheese. So I always select expensive. Why not? If you're going to get cheese, you're not doing the shit out of the can. You want proper cheese. If you're going to have cheese, do it well. So I'm at dinner with my wife, maybe something adventurous cheese-wise to go with a Cabernet. I click submit, and then the virtual cheesemonger makes recommendations. And we find, you'll see on the screen here, maybe that one in the middle looks kind of tasty, and so let's go with that one. Fancy that. And then before you know it, out comes some cheese. Oh, here you are. What do you have here, Mr. Cheesemonger? What do you think of this one? Want to try that? That's a good one. This is not the presentation you were thinking, was it? No, you were so silly. Okay, thank you very much. That is quite tasty. So I'm told that this virtual monger, I'm going to be drinking Cabernet Sauvignon. And now I know just the guy to get this wine from, so I can jump online and communicate with Cameron Hughes. This guy is an American negociant, known for getting exceptional wines at prices that are more real world. I kind of wondered what's a negociant. It's basically a person who gathers grapes and finished wines and blends them and then sells them under their own label. Pretty cool. Mr. Hughes and his team do a fantastic job of it, and they make it affordable for climbers like me who live in a van down by the river. Cameron also posts these videos of every wine that he has from his tasting room, and it's quite dramatic and colorful, and it's quite informative. So every single wine has this video of you. So I go through and peek and say, this one looks nice, and order. Hey, hi, you're busy. Poor things. I really don't want to drink this. I wish I could tell you that was grape juice, but that's the real McCoy. You always got to get back on the horse, right? You never care, so be determined and be persistent. Just broke out in a sweat. Okay, so I've now ordered from the comfort of my home all the stuff that we need for a meal, but we're missing the main course. And like I said, we like to make eating in our home a big deal. So I'm thinking I want to stump the internet. I want to talk to this internet and say, this is something you can't get me. I want lobster. Yes, you can order lobster online from Instagram.com. Who would have thought? Lobstergram.com is the original lobster home delivery system or service. Is there like 40? This is ridiculous. But if you're going to order fish online, get it with the original. So you jump on board, you poke around, you see some great images, you pick the lobsters for the group that you need, and live lobsters, not freeze-dried, not dehydrated, not lobster in a can, they are delivered by UPS the next day. Or in my case, within seconds. Here comes my lobster meal. Yes, thank you, gentlemen. Let's get this table ready. Watch out for those things we had. I'll take my seat here. Thank you, sir. Please. Perfect. My wife up there. What do we have here? My lobster. Thank you, buddy. Yeah? Should I I take off, you know, should I snap off the elastic? See how crazy you can get. Yeah. See what happens. What do you say? Get the butter. That's why Brent was wearing the gloves there. Maybe right there. Next, we get to my favorite part of the meal, which is arguably dessert. Okay, second favorite part, the wine would be number one. CarlosBakery.com. See how this whole thing is pulling together here with the custom celebration segment that we've dreamed up for you? These guys make fantastical sweet things, and you can actually order them online. Carlos has a great brand. It's featured on the reality show Cake Boss, right? They have 6 stores in New York, New Jersey, new location in Vegas. We don't need to go there. The stores are great, but we just jump online and do this. Poke around, take a look, and what do you see? French sponge crumb cake. Looks good to me. That's right. You can actually order this online, and so I do that, and the next thing you know, it comes right to your door. Whoa. And quite cutely, too. Wake up, man. Sort of shit. Just look at it. Come on. Let's see what we have. From the we have the box. It arrives. Thank you, Karen. Through this. Let's look at that. Some delicious desserts from Carlos. Like that. I'll be right from the just been around for a while. Thank you, lady. Really appreciate it. Get something to wash that down. My compliments to the boss. Absolutely well done. I think we should give a round of applause to those customers that we're celebrating this morning. Please do. Easy does it. Yeah. Easily. I have a lot of food to finish here and wanting to drink in the back. Before we take off out of here, Freddie, let's shoot out some more t-shirts. I think some people might, anybody interested in getting a free tuition to Magento U, that'd be interesting. Should we shoot a couple just for the spirit of it, just because it's fun? And then we'll throw a few more. Let's get after this trip. Ready? I don't know how much power. That's good. Let's do another one. Freddie, anybody else interested? I gotta hear something from somebody. There we go. Wow, that was from the second tier. Some Magento folks up there. Pass that down to the crew, you greedy Magento. Nice. Want to be fair. Do a couple more of this. So, like I say, we have one more general session. Okay, hit the hang of this. And I want everybody, if you could, please be back here at 2:45 for the fourth and final. This is getting a little heat to it. I'm going to come in low on this one. Yes. Yeah! See, I blew up in midair. That was awesome. Okay, one more after this one. That's a bit heavy. Okay. Coming straight back to you there. Oh! That was expensive. And how many times did they warn me, don't shoot any of the technology? That's right. Ready? Oh! Third tier. See you this afternoon, 2:45 in here, the general session. Don't get all the way for it. We got a few more to need this afternoon.
One's down. One man's down.
Okay, guys, we're going.
That one was out already. Yeah, that's good.
Bye.
Yeah.
Next time, come to Imagine.
Yeah, come to Vegas next time. We can't hear you.
No. Okay. Hey, Sherry, it's just you. Lovely.
How's it going?
That was fun. I'm good. I'm actually busy cooking with my wife.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So that was just kind of a bit in the background. I wasn't like, laser focused.
Yeah, well, it was kind of hard to be laser focused anyway because the quality wasn't awesome, but it was still cool.
Yeah, it would hurt being laser focused on that. So, but still was fun. Like,
yeah.
Just
All right, well.
Hey. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll continue. So thank you for opening up the Hangout and everything, and see you on Friday, right?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.